Okay, here's the first steps of making the salsa. Normally, this calls for one large can of tomatoes, either stewed or just canned tomatoes, and one small can. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to peel a mixture of Golden Jubilee, Rutgers, and Celebrity tomatoes. I've got boiling water here, and I'm going to. What I've done is I've cored these. I've put a little X on the bottom of each tomato to help with the peel coming off. And then I've got a bowl of ice water here. So I'm going to dunk them in here for about 30 seconds. And then I'm going to put them in the ice water. And then I'm going to be able to just take the peels off fairly easily. So I'm going to work on that. We're going to get 40 ounces of tomatoes. Basically what I'm going to work for. I'll put those in the blender, and that'll be the base of the sauce right there. So we'll start with that. Okay, here we're ready for the next step. Harris and Maddie are helping. Harris is running the blender, and Maddie is going to be running the camera. Okay, so this is 40 ounces of tomatoes after I've peeled them. And like I said, there are Golden Jubilee, Rutgers, and Celebrity tomatoes in there. And I just put them in the water for about 30 seconds, boiling water, and then put them in ice water, then the peels came right off. What I'm doing is I'm practicing for the state fair. They're doing a fresh salsa competition, so none of it can be cooked. Probably what I'm going to do for the competition itself, which I didn't do now just because it takes so much time, is I'll actually peel them with a vegetable peeler, and I practiced with that a little bit, and it does work. So this is just to save time so we can practice up and see what it looks like. Okay. We have one bunch of green onions, sliced or chopped. As you can see there, use the whole thing, green and white parts, and there were about 8 to 10 onions. One large white onion and one large purple onion, 2 cloves of garlic, 1 Anaheim chili pepper, and a few slices of jalapeno from the garden. Salt to taste. I usually put in about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons, depending on what it tastes like when it gets close to done. And oregano, dried oregano leaf, not powdered. It still gives the same flavor as powdered, but it makes it, it's got leaves in there, so it looks like you've got parsley or cilantro or something like that. I really don't like cilantro because it tastes like soap to me. So anyway, there's the oregano. That I'll probably put about a handful of that in. Normally this recipe calls for 1 large can of tomatoes and 1 small can of tomatoes, stewed or regular, and then 1 can of green chilies. And then everything else is fresh. So alright, let's get going here, and we'll start assembling it. Okay, so I got the little REC up there? Mm-hmm. Okay. Alright, so what we're going to do first, this is a chunky salsa. And the base of the salsa, the liquid, is going to be the tomatoes. The actual chunky part is going to be the onions. So I've chopped these. You could chop them finer. You can leave them pretty chunky. It just depends on what you like. These are maybe 1/4 of an inch square pieces for the most part. We put those in the bottom of a big bowl first. And get those all in there. And then we put the green onions in also. And some of those, when you pour them out, you'll see some of them didn't separate all the way out when you were chopping them. You just pull them apart. Okay, so now you have all the onions in the bowl. Okay, the next part is going to be blending the tomatoes. So Harris is going to turn that on. Doesn't really matter. We'll do liquefy. So he'll put it on the Okay. All right. So now the tomatoes are liquefied. What I'm going to do at this point, when the recipe called for canned chilies, you just dump those in here so they get blended up. It's not part of the chunky part that you stick in there. It was mostly for flavor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the jalapeno slices and the Anaheim green chilies. It's one whole Anaheim green chili. I'm going to put those in here. And then I'm going to put the 2 cloves of garlic in. I'm going to start out with about a teaspoon of salt. I don't use iodized salt, just because I don't think it has the same flavor. Normally I use sea salt or kosher salt, but we're out right now. And then oregano, just a big old handful of oregano. Okay? Okay, and then Harris is going to hit, we're going to do stir instead of mix, or instead of liquefy right now, I think. Go ahead and hit that one, yep. And then once it goes a little bit, then hit the mix button in the middle. Okay, so if you want to zoom in on that a little bit, Maddie, you can see there's chunks of leaves in there, chunks of peppers, chunks of garlic, just all kinds of stuff there. So next step is, it's a little messy. Some of it came out the top there. It's going to look a little pink if you do it with the canned tomatoes, because they're cooked a little bit. It's going to be a lot redder, but it's going to be a little pink. Even if I didn't use the Golden Jubilee tomatoes, it would have been a little bit pink. That settles down after a while. A lot of that's just because of air. Okay, so we're going to put this in here. Okay, and I forgot a spoon, so go ahead and pause that for a second. Okay, so I didn't have a spoon. I went and got a spoon. Here's where I'm just going to go ahead and stir it. Stir it. And I've made this with home canned tomatoes, and it's really good. And this is the first time I've made it with fresh tomatoes. The last time I made it, I used the canned tomatoes from the garden. But this is the first time I've made it with Anaheim green chilies that haven't been in a can. Everything else is pretty standard. But like I said, since the rules say it has to be fresh, this is why I'm practicing. And I'm going to take it to work on Tuesday. It's really better. It's going to taste good now, I think. I don't know. I'm going to try it. Yeah. I'm going to put a little bit more salt in at this point. Maybe about a half a teaspoon. Stir that in. It's a little hot, but I entered the medium competition, so I think that's going to be okay for them. This is better if it sits, so I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. Probably try it tomorrow, see if it needs anything else, and then by Tuesday it'll be at full strength, and all of the onion juices are going to get in there, and the pepper juices, and all of that. One more stir at that point, and it's going to be awesome. I don't know exactly how much it makes, but really what I need is only about a pint jar, and then the rest of it we'll just eat at home. Take the pint jar to the state fair in about 4 weeks, and hopefully come home with a ribbon. And that's that. Chunky onion salsa. And if you want to zoom in on that, we'll get one last picture. Chunky onion salsa with the tomato base and lots of garlic and oregano. Tastes pretty good. All right, thanks.